A very good evening and welcome this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mwangu Shampagi. Relations between Rwanda and Uganda continue to confuse majority of the population because it remains unclear what exactly is going on between the two neighborly countries. Last week, trucks leaving Uganda to Rwanda were blocked at the border, at Gatuna border, and the explanations that came only much later indicated that repair works or construction works are going on at the one border point at Gatuna, and that was the reason, and the trucks had therefore been diverted to other border points. Is that the real reason? Is there anything more than what we are seeing at the moment? Because of the comments that have been made by officials in both governments since that incident. We're also being told that Rwandan nationals coming to Uganda were being advised not to, though it was clear that people boarding from the airport were able to fly into the country. It's those crossing by road that were having trouble. That's what we'll be discussing tonight, and we'll also discuss controversy continues to dog the investigation into the closure of banks. The Parliamentary Committee on Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises Commission, Statutory Commissions and Statutory Authorities, completed their report, handed it over to Parliament. Parliament debated it this past week, but a petition to the Inspector General of Government and a letter from the Inspector General of Government forwarding to the Internal Security Organization to investigate members of Parliament who constituted the committee, who were members of the committee that did the Bank of Uganda investigation, asking that they be investigated. So who is going to be investigated, who is not going to be investigated, and where will this end? To discuss that with me tonight, let me start with Agatha Atweire. She's a journalist working with the Independent magazine and a law student at Makerere University. Very nice to have you, Agatha.
Nice to be here. Good evening, viewers.
I have Sulaiman Kakaire. Sulaiman is a journalist and a lawyer. Sulaiman, very nice to have you.
Good evening, viewers. Thanks, Charles.
And last but not least, we have Barbara Among, who's a journalist and a trainer working with Uganda Radio Network. Very nice to have you.
Good evening, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
We're being joined online by Henry Okello Oriem, State Minister for Foreign Affairs in charge of international relations. He'll be joining us via telephone link-up from Kitgum District, and we will notify you as soon as we have him online. Let me start with the extreme end, Barbara. What exactly is going on between Rwanda and Uganda? It's a question I would have loved to put to the minister, and I will put to the minister as soon as we get him. But you're a journalist, so you should tell us.
Well, Charles, I wish I knew what was exactly happening or going on between Rwanda and Uganda. But from what I know as a journalist is that Rwanda and Uganda, we do have a lot in common. We do have a lot, the citizens, you know, the people at the border, we do share culture, we do share language, there's intermarriages and everything. But even when you look at the government, the style of leadership in Uganda, the style of leadership in Rwanda, it's not very different. The two leaders were basically born from the same womb, you would say that. But then also, like everyone is saying, the siblings, they first met, and we could say the first major disagreement happened way back in 1999 when there was that encounter in DRC Congo, and then also in May 2000 in DRC Congo. And in 1999 and May 2000, Rwanda beat Uganda. You know, we lost. And we came back with a lot of bitterness. And so the ghost of Kisangani, the ghost of Congo, is still moving around. It's not yet, you know, asleep. It's still looking for revenge. So you could relate this to that, saying that the ghost is still out there. It's still looking, wants to revenge and all that. But then also, you'd say that 2 years ago, Rwanda and Uganda, the two presidents actually tried to reach out to each other and tried to talk and tried to, you know, to iron out what was happening. And what reignited this 2 years ago is that Uganda was accusing Rwanda of espionage, and Rwanda was also accusing Uganda of the same thing. And there were several arrests that were made on both ends, both in Rwanda and in Uganda. And these arrests were actually related to those accusations. So you could say that the current disagreements that we're having actually picks from Kisangani and picks also from the incidents that started happening, especially the arrests 2 years ago. So it's something that's been ongoing. There's no, you cannot put a finger and say this time round this sparked this action.
Kakaide, let me come to you quickly. There have been lots of makeup and reconciliation efforts since Kisangani, and Kisangani looks like so far away, so long gone, that when you see what's going on today, you're asking yourself, is it still dating that far? I'll read you something from Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Richard Sezibera. He's been very active on Twitter since this part began. And he said, as explained to many journalists, all Rwanda's borders are open. Trucks and heavy vehicles are advised to use Kajitumba due to ongoing construction at Gatuna. Rwandans are strongly advised in capitals not to travel to Uganda due to ongoing arrests, harassment, and torture. And Dr. Richard Sezibera told the East African newspaper, I'll quote from the newspaper, he says, Rwandans are strongly advised not to travel to Uganda for their own safety. We had issues of security with those who crossed to Uganda, and Rwandans are advised not to unnecessarily go there, but they are not being stopped. Those are his words. And then he added, these are the reasons. I think Ofono Pondo was one among others were challenging the Rwandan officials to give evidence of their allegations on what's going on. And he says, this is again Richard Sezibera, he says, incarceration without consular access, deportation, etc. This is for their own security. Ugandans in Rwanda or traveling through Rwanda are safe. Is this something that dates back to 2000?
I don't think so. Perhaps, and there I just beg to disagree with my sister, although she gives a good graphic context of this kind of difference. I mean, you have to understand, and I think you've provided the best context when you talk about the cultural ties between Rwanda and Uganda. They go beyond, as far as my memory can gather. So that means even the disagreements, the little disagreements which happened in the pre-independence period were more to do with the mediated understanding of each other, which was born out of the balkanization of the Great Lakes region, which is the colonial project. But you would understand that our societies were always interacting. The society of Rwanda and the society of the current constituent Uganda were interacting, and you will find intermarriages which are 4 generations. Then other explanations to it, meaning that we are the same people. Now, when it comes to the Kisangani and the other things, and actually that's part of the reason which explains even the NRM, that when they were going to participate in a liberation struggle, going for a liberation struggle, their recruitment was in that kind of zoning. That whereas we have this kind of cultural interaction over a period of time, we don't recognize this particular group as part of us. And indeed they got their bargain when Banyarwanda were recognized as a tribe in Uganda. Meaning whatever happened in Kisangani was more to do with the subjective disagreements of the individual players from Rwanda and Uganda. So that element, can it be read in the current quarrel? I think partly if you are reading the attitude of individuals, because as individual players, the individual players, the principles, you would understand there is an element of attitude when it comes to ego. That is more personal, it's not structural.
Actually, President Kagame said it's because of egos.
Ego, that's in the interview he gave the East African.
Yes, yes.
And you would read it. But even after 1999, you would see that these gentlemen were interacting. Close to 2 decades, they were together. I mean, this current quarrel started way back around 2017. But when you historicize it again, you would understand it's more to do with power consolidation on both ends.
What do you mean?
In respect of Uganda, the fears when they start to say that you are interfering with our politics, because the undertones, when you read them, there were those undertones. Though Uganda has not particularly come out to say you are doing ABCD, but when you read the charge sheet for the former IGP, General Kale Kaihura, you would understand that those are the undertones, that you were basically interfering with the territorial integrity of Uganda. You are interfering in our politics. And when you look at it, again, when you read the undertones of Mr. Richard Sezibera, the former Speaker, EALA, East African, former Secretary General, and the current Foreign Affairs Minister. When you get also to understand it, you realize that both sides are trying to have a firm grip with their politics, and the accusations are to do with why are you interfering in the internal affairs of our country. And that can give you a more structural explanation to the current quarrel. Now, trying to also there is the other context that since Kisangani and since RPF success and NRA success, many changes have happened in RPF and even UPDF. There has been a transition. And perhaps that also explains the loss of communication. The people who were the main players in Uganda are no longer the main players. That we have also to understand.
How does that fit into your argument that this is a clash of egos? Because the principal players of Kisangani, 1, 2, and 3, are no longer key players in the current stage, both in the military and in the politics. Rwanda was very upset, for example, with the late General James Kazini. May his soul rest in peace. He's been dead almost a decade now. Rwanda was uncomfortable with the Brigadier Noble Mayombo. Noble Mayombo died in 1997. In 2007. Yeah. It's more than 10 years since. Rwanda was uncomfortable with the leadership of the security structure in Uganda. All those leaders have since left power. The people who are involved in that clash in Kisangani, on the Rwandan side, have either died or have gone into exile. So where are the egos?
No, maybe before you finish, in relation to that, you can't say they are all out of the game. They are not, because for Rwanda they've just moved from government to the rebels. Okay. Kigali now tells them the opposition, the distance, and also President Kagame points that they are the source of his problem with Uganda right now, the ones who are based in South Africa. So if you look at the UN report, the UN group of experts report also, they tend to back up what Rwanda is saying, that there is a group of rebels. Okay, they call them the P5. The P5 they're currently operating in Eastern DRC. But then also there's another arm in South Africa, and Rwanda alleges, and the UN also in that report alleges that there's an arm, that there's a cell that's actually operating in Uganda right now, meaning that the players then have just moved from government to the opposition. So the players, as much as the players in Uganda are out of government, or they passed on and all that, the players in Rwanda are still alive. Yes.
Agatha, I need you to share what you know about this latest round of clashes. The Uganda's minister for Uganda's minister Philemon Mateke, who's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of regional affairs, calls this a trade war. Is Uganda and Rwanda? Is Uganda and Rwanda? No. This is a direct quote from him. He says, "We don't know their motive, but we think it is a declaration of a trade war."
I think he's not saying.
Are we teetering? I've seen on social media or on Twitter, on Facebook, and people saying these guys actually on the brink of an open confrontation. Yes. Are we teetering towards that, you think?
But I think it is possible now, the way things are going. And the reason Mateke calls it
It's not
a
possible.
trade war, I don't think it's laughable that he calls it a trade war. That the things, the conflicts and the differences, Kagame calls them differences, that have been happening over the last 2 years, people are retaliating. They want to just treat it in a subtle way and retaliate by stopping trucks from moving into Rwanda, stop cement. But the reason it is more than a trade war, I know people that were not trading, that were blocked from leaving the country. Honorable Sesbera calls it advising against. That's not what happened. I had a function at home on Friday. I had relatives coming in from Rwanda on 2 borders that are not even Gatuna. One was coming through Kajitumba and the other through Chanika. Those are 2 groups. My uncle with his group, my aunt with her group.
Another group.
And they were stopped at the border. They said, you cannot enter.
With Rwanda.
Uganda.
Going to Uganda.
Yes. And I asked them, they did not explain, they just said, they have stopped us. And we have just gone back. They had arrived at around 8 a.m. I told my sister, the one I follow who lives in Chugala, I said, how will you pass? She said, let us try. They had a friend of mine coming for the same party, so they had come together. They said, since we have this guy who is Ugandan, maybe we'll pass. They reached Gatuna, and they were told, Rwandans, people carrying Rwandan passports are not leaving. This friend has 2 passports, both Rwanda and Uganda. They had blocked him because he had first shown
The Rwandan passport.
When he showed the Ugandan passport,
They told him you can go.
Yeah, so
Has he been able to go back?
yeah, yes, he has.
Okay.
So the thing, when I saw later that RRA letter of works at Kajitu, at Gatuna, and saying trucks can't pass because of works, I asked, what about people? My relatives didn't have any trucks. The first 2 groups were
And they were coming in.
yeah, were
Yes.
even on foot, just trying to cross and board another taxi to come through. So it's not a works issue. But Charles, what I want to tell you...
Let me read the
No,
letter. Let me read the
finish.
letter from the Rwanda Revenue Authority. It's a strange letter in a way because it's an official letter whose reference and date are written in ink. It's Commissioner for Customs Services, Uganda Revenue Authority. It's addressed to the Commissioner for Customs Services, Uganda Revenue Authority. And it's dated 28th of February 2019. Temporary diversion of heavy trucks from Gatuna to Kajitumba border post. In a bid to expedite the construction works currently taking place at Gatuna border posts that are aimed at extending smooth flow of goods and services at the border post, we are considering reducing the traffic of heavy trucks to allow completion of the OSBP. This is OSBP one-stop border point infrastructure. In view of the above, Rwanda Revenue Authority would like to inform you that with effect from 28th February 2019, all heavy trucks carrying goods destined and those transiting via Gatuna shall be temporarily diverted from using Gatuna border post to Kajitumba, Mirama Hills border post. The reduction in the traffic of these trucks shall provide ample space to the contractor to accomplish the works on time, and the dates to resume the use of the route shall be communicated. Now, these OSBPs, one-stop border points, are joint projects of the East African community. Trademark East Africa, I think, has been helping and other people facilitating ease of movement and especially revenue collection, management and processing of cross-border movement for peoples of the East African community. They're being done jointly. It surprises me, I don't know if it surprises anyone else, that this would be used as the reason for blocking the border when Uganda should actually be participating in the construction of this one-stop border point. I don't know if you find this, anybody finds
Now,
this
the same story
kind of strange.
that
You
you
see,
read through
Charles,
also says there
you've
were no
just
works going
shown-
on.
Yes.
You've just read the contradiction of the contradiction in the statements of the Foreign Affairs Minister of Rwanda. They are trying to skirt around the issue, just like the government of Uganda. I remember one of the articles, one of the Ugandan journalists wrote an article where this prominent journalist was questioning that whereas Rwanda has made its issues known to Uganda, Uganda has not made their concerns known to Rwanda.
I
But
think so too.
but you think so too?
Yes.
I know both sides know what the issues are, but the reason I told you that there are also other explanations which go to the transition, the changes in leadership that have been happening. That previously, 12 years, I mean, 15 years ago, you would not have this kind of quarrel end up in the public domain being discussed the way it's being discussed. Perhaps one of the reasons is there has been a weakening in institutional mechanisms to manage disputes like this nature, most especially in Kampala. I know that the foreign affairs minister has played a big role in it, but I think we've reached a point where we are discussing it like this. I hope it will not get worse, but I know that the external forces will work towards the possibility of having these two gentlemen come on table and talk and thrash out their issues. But I know that the situation is inevitable now to go to those high levels we are imagining, although it will be managed. Yeah.
There is a history to this, and Barbara, you're the one who was speaking to the history. There was a time when relations between President Yoweri Museveni and President Paul Kagame were being managed by the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, Linda Choka, I think.
Yeah.
Linda Choka would summon President Museveni and President Paul Kagame, take them to a meeting, some at White House Inn in Kabale, and or summon them to London, or you thought that phase had ended. There was a period of warming of relations, but he's talking about transition in power. We know President Kagame recently won re-election. We know President Museveni won re-election, but he's preparing for the next election. So how does this fit in? Where does this fit in?
I don't see them running back to London. I don't think so, because President Museveni over the years is tried to portray himself as, not even just portray himself, but there's a Pan-African side to President Museveni. And that Pan-African side to President Museveni, he always sees himself as the one to fix this broken Africa, okay? The one to send troops to countries that to governments that need to be rescued, like he sent troops to South Sudan to go and fight alongside the government troops, and so that President Salva Kiir is not ousted by Riek Machar. We've seen Uganda actively participate in Somalia. We've had President Museveni over and over again say that we need the African Union, we need the African, what was the name that was given to the military outfit for the continent? But there was that rapid response unit. So he's always talking towards, fixing this broken Africa. So I don't see President Museveni running back to London to find someone to speak to President Paul Kagame. I think he's going to reach out to President Paul Kagame, despite what President Paul Kagame said, that a lot of this has been happening because of egos in the last 2 years. We've tried to see it, we've tried to meet in the last 2 years, but it's just egos that's keeping us from solving this issue.
But Barbara, these are two extremes. President Museveni is on this side, Pika is on the other side, President Kagame is on the other side. Now, who is the arbiter at the continental level? I'm saying, who is the arbiter?
No, at the continental level right now, there's absolutely no one.
Do you think there's an
no,
arbiter?
there's no one at the moment.
President Kagame is the chair of, has been the chair
Yes,
of
yes.
the African Union. President Museveni is the chair of the East African community.
Yes.
So who mediates them?
No. It's actually not.
Yes, has taken over.
It's
He's
not
the current chair.
It's not
So
even about the chair. Who is the chair of the continental body right now? It's about having that person who is respected, who they look up to. President Museveni is one of the most senior leaders on the continent at the moment. How many senior leaders do
Like,
in terms of age, in terms of number of years of rule, in terms of experience? is all that. Now, in the past, we had like the Obasanjos who could come and sit on the table and have a conversation with him. You had Thabo Mbeki from South Africa could sit on the table and have a conversation with him. But right now, let's look across the continent. Who can talk to President Museveni? There's absolutely no one who can stop President Museveni on the continent right now.
Even before you go to
no one.
Even before you go to who can.
Yeah.
The bigger question people would want to know is, what is the issue? Because I don't think we have answered what the issue is.
I don't think we can really answer what the issue is.
Yes.
We cannot say this is the single issue that's causing this discontentment. We cannot. We cannot say this is a single issue.
Their issues known. The issues are known.
No, Rwanda has made its issues known officially, but not Uganda.
Uganda, you read the charge sheet of the former IGP.
But does that amount to the official position of Uganda?
These charge sheets can give you the explanations behind it. But Charles,
why then? Why then? Let me put it this way. President Kagame gave an extensive interview to the East African on what, and he says he roots their disagreements with Kampala to South Africa. And he's referring to his former comrades with whom he has since disagreed and exiled in South Africa, whom he thinks are using Uganda as a base, as a transit point to destabilize his government. Why is Kampala not giving a comprehensive response to all these issues and wanting to brush them under? I can tell you, I have seen correspondences. No, actually, correspondence is the wrong word. I have seen letters, a whole pile of them. I think Ambassador Mugambaji has referred to them, Major General, writing to the Minister of Foreign Affairs asking about Rwandans, those that have been detained, those that have been unaccounted for, he alleges torture and other things, and hasn't gotten responses from Uganda's Minister of Foreign Affairs at all. We're trying to get to the minister, and we can't get the minister. We can't get Sam Kutesa to speak to some of these things. Why is there that silence? Then the other day, I think about 2 months ago, we saw pictures released from State House Rwanda, where Sam Kutesa carried a message to President Paul Kagame. Nobody knows what was contained in that message, what it has done, and where we are at the moment.
Where we are at the moment, at least you know now.
Yes, you see this. You see this coming.
What is coming out? It means that what was contained in the letter, both gentlemen have failed to resolve it. And actually, when you read President Paul Kagame's interview with the East African, it's more telling, because he says, to paraphrase, he says that, you see, we need to act on the statements that we make.
Okay.
At least.
I'm afraid.
He's saying that what we are...
Agatha, you're going to speak to the issue, because you said that's what we should have been discussing. You're going to speak to the issue after we take a very short commercial break. And Honorable Minister, if you're watching this show, please, pick your phone so that you can speak to us, or call us so that you can explain a few things to the Ugandan audience and the international community that's watching us and watching this situation between the two countries with a lot of anxiety. We'll be right back. You're still watching the Fourth Estate, and we're discussing this intricate relationship between Uganda and Rwanda, which led, and the latest is a closure of the Gatuna. Gatuna is on the Rwandan side and Katuna on the Ugandan side border post. Rwanda says officially that this is to facilitate construction works on the one-stop border point on their side of the border. But these are supposed to be, because it's one stop, so you stop, wherever you stop, you're supposed to be processed and moved through. And the countries of the East African community have been working together. There are border points on the Kenyan border, there are border points, this is not the first border point on the Rwandan side of the border that was constructed without any issues. Without any interruptions. And they're being done elsewhere. And Teji Asimo is watching us and says, Uganda is like a man who dates a woman who doesn't love him. These neighbors have not been so good to us despite our history, and they treat us as a man who dates a woman who doesn't love him. Maybe we should run to our neighboring girls and leave this naughty, cheeky and loving young lady. Nteje Asimwe. Someone is asking, Joachim Buembo is watching us and says, where do the deportations of MTN executives feature in all this? These were deportations in January.
It's a pattern.
Yeah, in January. And then there's someone else. Someone else says, can't Andrew Mwenda broker talks between Museveni and Kagame? Just thinking aloud. And talks between the two are really important because traders are making visible losses. Agatha, Andrew is the CEO at The Independent, so maybe you might want to ask him this question. And he goes on to say, the longer the current situation goes on, the more losses that will be made by Ugandan traders. Another viewer is watching us. I'll take the message. Says, Kigali establishment will come out clean. They will coerce their country to cohesion by muzzling voices of dissent, whereas any unsubstantiated news bite that will drop in Uganda will shape opinion, I think here. And the source of such news item could be traced back to Kigali. Kigali government will send a message to Uganda at any cost, even if it means starving her nationals. This is Muzei Lima Sierra and is watching us from Chisasi. Agatha, we have the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of international relations, the Honorable Okello Oryem Henry. Honorable Minister, you're most welcome to the Fourth Estate. Hello, can we hear you? Studio, is the Minister on? We're having difficulty hearing the Minister, but as we get through to the Minister. Agatha, you're talking about the issue. What is the issue? Yes, I can hear the Minister is on. Honorable Minister? Yes, sir. We are discussing the latest issues between Uganda and Rwanda with the closure of the border. Officially, what can you tell us is the reason for that closure? Honorable Oryem? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Welcome to the Fourth Estate. Hello? Can you hear us?
I can hear perfectly. Yes.
Yes. I know you are in Chitgum. I didn't know network was so bad in parts of this country. But
I'm on Baruta. I'm the water.
Okay. So won't try to keep you long. Could you just bring us up to speed and our viewers? What exactly is the problem between Rwanda and Uganda?
Hello?
Yes, hello, sir. What exactly is the problem between Rwanda and Uganda? What explains these differences? I think we're failing to communicate with the Minister. We'll try and call you back when you're hopefully in better network area. Let me come back to studio. Agatha, what is the issue?
Well, like Barbara said, I don't think us, apart from Museveni and Kagame, I don't think any of us can point a finger to the exact issue. But when you look at, there's what lawyers call circumstantial evidence. You
can draw inferences from
yes,
the
you
conduct.
look at what has been happening over the last 2 years. And I disagree with Barbara, who traces it back to Kisangani. I think we had been long over Kisangani. Visits exchanged, cows exchanged, relations had been fine. But come 2017 and relations start souring. We just start by hearing them in rumors about they think Rwanda is behind the deaths that were happening. I don't know if any person had that to destabilize, to discredit the government of Museveni and something like that. We have issues of Kaihura's wars that started also around late 2017. And that is summed up by President Museveni's refusal to attend the free trade area that was being launched, that was hyped, that he withdrew from at the last minute. And all that, in all that you hear that Uganda thinks Rwanda is destabilizing it, is funding the Kaihuras or any other person that would like to oust Museveni. But in rumors, at least Rwanda has come out and officially written to Uganda about these things, like Kakaya was saying. Rwanda has written and said, look, we know that FDLR rebels have come to Uganda and held talks with your officials. We know that Kayumba Nyamasa's brother-in-law has done this and that in Uganda. And they've written to Uganda.
There's another rebel group they're talking about. Is it RNC? RNC or something?
Yeah, the
yes.
Rwanda National Congress.
Yes.
So
yeah,
why,
the one of Nyamasa.
the
Yes.
question is, why doesn't Uganda respond to that? And we have also seen Kagame come here. Remember when Kagame abruptly visited
State House.
Museveni in
Because he'd
Rwanda?
missed a meeting. He'd missed a meeting here. He came shortly after that.
Yeah. So, and we have seen him in this paper, the East African, trying to ask for, let's talk. You know, I don't know Kagame so well, but I think he's an egoistic man, maybe even more than Museveni. But by the time he comes out and the tone is a reconciliatory tone, you think that this other side should also do something, make an effort. But then for it has, when you ask, they say, we have no problem with Rwanda. Isn't that what they say?
Maybe they have no problem with Rwanda.
But
Maybe Kampala
if they have,
actually is convinced that he has no problem
what
with
I'm
Rwanda.
asking is, Charles,
Yes.
if you have no problem with someone and someone asks you what is going on, we have a problem here. Let's say you have a wife, yes. If your wife asked you, I have encountered problems with you here, and there, and you don't respond to them, would you say there's no problem? You don't settle their concerns, you don't allay their worries.
No,
Would you
but
say
if
that
Kigali,
there
if
is
Kigali
no
is saying,
problem?
if Kigali is saying, you guys are harboring dissidents whose leader is Kayumba Nyamwasa, based in South Africa. You're facilitating their movements, you're giving them passports, you are giving them training camps. And Kampala says, no, we are not, because maybe we are not.
But has Kampala said that? Has it written to Kigali back? Has it
What
responded to
message?
its letters?
I hope we had the minister with us, because
Let me tell you what else happened
whi-
recently.
Whichever
Yes.
accusations.
Recently, Museveni invited the ambassador of Rwanda to talk to him and asked him, what is happening? We hear these and these issues. And I am asking myself, has Museveni just known about the problems with Rwanda, or was he feigning ignorance? And the ambassador told him, from what I heard, from a reliable source, told him, but the president, we have written to you and said we have these concerns. You cannot be harboring dissidents. You cannot be allowing your officials, to have meetings here in Kampala with people that are destabilizing our country, because there's a group that apparently was arrested. So what I am wondering is, why isn't Uganda as keen to resolve these issues as Rwanda has seemed to be?
is Rwanda playing better public relations than Kampala is? And let me put this to you, Kakaire.
Yeah.
Joachim Buembo asked the question. Top officials of the mobile telephone network, MTN, hold a group meeting in Kigali. On their return, they are held back at the airport. One is deported immediately. Another one is deported after a day. A third one is deported later, and the fourth person is deported. The fourth actually survived because he did not participate in that meeting. Wim van Helen Putte, the former chief executive officer of MTN, cancelled the trip to Kigali at the last minute, but they were tracking and they would have arrested him. And the reason is, you guys, one of the reasons that have been unsaid is, we suspect you're working with Rwanda to destabilize Uganda.
You see, as I respond to that question, I want to draw you back to take you back to where you started from, when you said that Rwanda has been writing and Uganda is not responding. Uganda has responded. It's not going to respond through just writing, through actions. And you can read the pattern. You do one thing, we do another. I've told you, Uganda shuffled its entire intelligence, shuffled its entire police. And you have senior police officers, a senior military officer, and former IGP facing a trial. How do you want them to communicate?
Is
That is communication enough.
Is that the kind of response that Kigali expected?
That tells you
picking
one
people.
thing.
Maybe not
You're
expected.
picking-
For
Is
them-
it what is viable, what is appropriate for two neighboring
Charles and
countries?
Agatha, let me tell you this. Whenever you are in a dispute, you can easily control, you at an individual level, how you respond to that conflict. But you have no control over the other party's manner or tone of reaction to such a conflict. And that's what is happening. But you see, all that is explained by one thing. That what can keep, and you see, let's tell the
So
audience,
is
the
Rwanda
viewers
antagonizing
today,
Uganda or
that there
responding
has
to-
been, that I don't know, and I can't make an argument for it, because I mean, there is a history. Previously, there have people who have declared a struggle, people who have openly criticized this government, and they have found their way to exile through Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
The same context is clear, that you've had a group of people who have organized a liberation struggle from Uganda and won and successfully captured power in Rwanda. So the mistrust on both sides, I think it's well founded. Now, what we should be reading, what is the cause of mistrust? And are the concerns
How do you
genuine?
respond?
Because
How do you respond to people who urge and say Uganda and Rwanda are Siamese twins? They actually cut from the same cord. That they cannot afford. I have seen Sezibera in his Twitter communication. He's been struggling to say, I don't own anything in Uganda, I don't own a business in Uganda, because people, I think, accusing him of running businesses here, and saying, how can you be saying these things against a country where you grew up where you lived? Much of that leadership in Kigali has very strong roots in Uganda. If you're
so it's the same thing with even the leadership in Uganda.
Yes.
Our Foreign Affairs Minister marries from where?
From Rwanda. So if
You
the
like to
relationship,
find relatives in your family. She has explained her family.
Yes.
My family, her family. We have
yes,
relatives
if
in Uganda.
if that is the kind of relationship that you have, you're literally tied at the hip. Why would you have such a deep level of mistrust?
You will
And
let families choose
yes.
where to belong.
Yes,
That's
and I'll
the
tell
truth.
you, you're a minister and you're advising Rwandans not to go to Uganda. But actually, evidence on the ground is you're not just advising them, you're prohibiting them. You're prohibiting them from going into Uganda, where they have relations, where they're trading. And the Rwanda Patriotic Front left Kampala in, I think, October 1990.
Yeah.
Less than 10 years down the road, these two countries were clashing in Kisangani.
We are at war.
We're at war
Yeah.
in Kisangani. And since then, you have had periodic flare-ups.
Yeah.
Yes, that you find up to this day. And the question would be, what exactly is this kind of disagreement? I have been told that initially, or to some people in Kigali, Uganda has never really let go and acknowledged that this is an independent and sovereign country, that the leaders there have what it takes to run their country the way they want, which is what President Kagame was calling the clash of egos. And Kigali, elements in Kigali, I have been told, also think, wait a minute.
Want to prove a minute.
We are grown up. We can't keep.
We are a sovereign
you-
state.
yes, we're a
We're not
sovereign
boys
state.
anymore.
Yeah. you can't be ordering us around
But
here.
that is possible.
Which is actually correct. I mean,
Eh?
all the accusations. I mean, the issue you've stated it when you say that there has been that relationship, but at some point mistrust develops. But how is it? How come that they always get to a common position? What consolidates power here is by agreeing with Rwanda. What consolidates power in Rwanda is by agreeing with Kampala. And that's why I say that this is a quarrel which will come to an end at some point.
So
because
basically, it's
they
just
have-
brothers quarreling,
exactly.
and it will just
And you
end
see,
like that.
Charles, we have to tell viewers that Ugandans and Rwandans are not at war. But principal players or the leadership of Rwanda and Uganda, perhaps they have
Are
a
at
difference. They have differences. They are not even at war.
Mm.
They are not even at
But-
war.
but-
But they are just trying to interact and see, are you ready? Can we go for a
No,
a
but
discussion?
you see, towards the end of last year, 2018, President Kagame put on a military fatigue, okay? Went to Gabiro, which is, I think, on the, is it the eastern border?
Eastern border.
And it was the Rwandan military exercise. And he sent a warning to the enemies of Rwanda. And he said that we are ready to deal with the enemies of Rwanda. And it was the first time President Kagame was wearing a military uniform in 10 years. And he wore in 10 years.
Let's
just
not
to send
sound the
that
old
warning.
drums.
No, we are not.
At that stage, I don't think
we are not
declaring
sounding. No,
an enemy.
we are not sounding the
Yeah.
war drums. But we are saying that there's some posturing.
But we are not even in a position
Yeah,
to-
we're not
to
even to
declare
declare war drums. But we are saying
Rwanda
that
enemies.
something is happening. As much as we are saying this could be just be siblings who are disagreeing,
Yeah.
but we are saying that these siblings are also bringing in other colors into this war. But also, to take you back to the question that Joachim asked about MTN. MTN, I don't think just, let's say last year actually. Last year, MTN found itself in trouble. And I think they paid about, was it $8 million or something? For hosting the Rwandan server in Uganda. How do you host a server of another country in another country?
Maybe their explanation.
You see,
for it.
you basically you surrender. You see, so the data of Rwanda, there was that allegation. Okay, there was that. Actually, it was not allegation.
But are you
the Rwandan
are you speaking
authority
about,
actually.
I hear you on that. Are you
Yes.
speaking about countries in a region that have gone through the economic cooperation. They have a common customs union. They have
Cultural ties.
cultural ties, and are moving towards political federation.
But a national,
Is that a place where you'd be afraid that whoever is hosting the data server for our country must be closed in when you're talking about East African integration?
But you cannot. The national data is a security issue, and it's the reason why Uganda took the steps to actually deport the NTN officials. When you expose the data of a country to another country, you are instead actually exposing that country. And that's why you find in most developed countries, and even other countries
and I'm
within the
asking-
region,
and
just
I'm putting
Kenya
the same
here.
question to you, that the idea that you're moving towards East African integration and political federation, though it's been amended to confederation, you're actually trying to say, we are one people, we need to be working together, common security, common trade interests, common services, common politics. That's what you're moving towards. Because if you politically federate, you're most likely going to have one president.
But that does not mean surrendering your sovereignty to another country, which is what Uganda is saying, which is what Rwanda is saying, which is what Kenya is also saying, that we can federate. We can have people from Uganda work in Nairobi. We can have people from Nairobi work in Dar es Salaam. We can have people from Dar es Salaam work in Kigali. But we are not surrendering our sovereignty. We're surrendering our security into the hands of another country, which is what they're saying, which is what got MTN into trouble. That's why you have a country like Kenya managing
how long-
all the
I have
national
an interesting-
telecoms. Managing all the national telecoms. You cannot have foreigners manage your telecommunication system. You cannot have foreigners managing your national data.
My question
You are
still,
in- you are
my question,
actually
my question
surrendering.
still
But
would be,
Charles-
the question still would be to any of you guys: should I feel a foreigner in Kigali? Should I feel I'm a foreigner in Tanzania? Should I feel I'm a foreigner in Kenya? What is this East African community think if we remain foreigners and cocooned in these little countries called Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya,
But how can
Tanzania.
there be an East
I mean-
African Federation when people don't want to resolve
Yeah, when the societies are not interacting.
That's the question.
But
Someone is
before
asking
it's
here.
interacted.
Someone is asking a very interesting question. I need an answer from all of you. Starting with you, Agatha. Dear journalists, do you think voting Museveni out of power in 2021 and Kagame in 2024 can solve this impasse in
Yes.
future?
Yes, I think so.
Personally, I think so.
What do you think, Barbara?
Yeah, it would.
I think so.
I think
But
the issues
Charles,
are between
Charles,
those two.
Yes.
we've at least at some point reached a point of agreement, a meeting of minds in respect of this. But there is something that is being missed. Why is the situation? Why has it escalated to this level? And my view, I think, because when you look at all the activities that have started the discussion are within Kampala, within Uganda. If it means dissidents of Rwanda operating from here, as they are alleging, it's within Uganda borders. When it means people who are on the other side is within Uganda. Which something which is explaining also structural weaknesses in our intelligence, and something also explaining issues to do with lack of focus, because if at some point you are a whole I mean there are charges where people when you read deeply and analyze the charge sheet of the former leadership of police, where all these guys are being accused, when you analyze it, you realize that at some point they were working for another country. How do we reach there? Is it an issue to do with a lack of discipline and ethical, this lack of patriotism, lack of focus, that we no longer have an ideology that holds us
former colleagues
together?
helping each other.
Because I highly doubt that Uganda has managed to penetrate or infiltrate another country. I mean, let me give the very example of Rwanda. I highly doubt they have done that.
Do they have a reason to do that?
Uganda is here accusing Rwanda to have done that, although Rwanda continues to maintain that we've not done it. And I think
I think
the only situation. At first, I was saying that it will not reach the, and I still maintain it. But I realize I'm hoping, because I mean I have relatives there, I have friends there. I mean we have more ties.
There's a difference between hoping and reality.
But I'm seeing, because part of the reality is that American foreign policy is in disarray with Donald Trump, because they would be more interested in not seeing this conflict move to something else, because we already have the issue of terrorism in our context. So I don't think this also, it can stir more controversy.
okay.
But two, Uganda, the corruption levels, I highly doubt we shall start this stage, because there is a possibility of people trading in rumors and wanting to be bought off in one way or the other. Then you have another explanation of the rise, the emergence of opposition forces. All these things can play into this situation and move it to another level. Because right now, you have to analyze this in the context of the 3-decade rule.
I hear
and that's
you,
why these guys are responding in that tone.
My question is,
that the country is no longer together.
You've had these issues from early 2000. Kampala officially declared Kigali an enemy state.
From the late 90s, actually.
Yeah, from the late 90s.
Yeah.
An enemy state, in a statement before the Ugandan parliament. Because Kampala believed Kigali was facilitating Dr. Kizza Besigye's first run in 2001. Kampala believed, or still believes, that some officials that were with Dr. Kizza Besigye, who had declared war against Uganda, the Anthony Chakabale,
the Mande,
and Mande,
yes,
escaped through Kigali.
That's true.
And I can tell you that today, there are elements in Kampala who believe that some of the people they are looking for as part of that soup against the leadership of the Ugandan police under General Kale Kayihura are hiding in Kigali or are being protected by Kigali.
Yeah.
There have been arrests in this country, or at least Kigali has alleged in those letters.
They released the list of 40?
Demarches, yes. The list of 40.
Yeah.
They include people running bars, they include people riding borders, they include everybody. And they think Kigali has been penetrating and infiltrating this country with intelligence operatives through those low-level jobs. So people running bars, people running hair salons.
For your information,
yes, people running.
Who Kajingo, Sarah Kajingo runs a publication. She has formerly worked in the State House. She works Soft Power. Soft Power did an interesting article, interesting in quotes, but they gave us an inside story why the former senior managers of MTN were deported.
Yes, what
and
I know,
they are pointing to that, to what you
yes,
stated.
I know for a fact that there were arrests and deportations, especially the reasons the Kaihuras and the Gasiras and Muhanjis are in trouble, of those kidnaps and deportations to Rwanda, which I think Sarah and her team have investigated for some time, not dating back to 2017, 2018. I'll just take one message. Someone is watching us from the Chile, Hague in the Netherlands, and says the cause of the tensions is the two men that you got on your back screen, not the rest of the Ugandans or Rwandans.
Yeah.
They know what the issue is. Let them not make it a party for many. They must make a date and negotiate over whatever it is. Right now, I see more of negotiations between the two. This is greetings from the Chile, Hague, and it's a message from Crispin Kahero. Another listener here says, these entire OBs, both of them, President Museveni and President Kagame, studied at Intare, remind me of two thieves. Every time one visits the other for a night, they both have sleepless nights because of mistrust. These leaders need to remember that these countries were and will be when these individuals are no more. They ought to swallow their egos for the greater good. Another message here says, Linus Ngompe, Karadisi, Agago district, says, I think Uganda thinking ahead of Rwanda leaders is the problem. Dropping Kare as IGP, his henchmen detained, and the deportation of the MTN chiefs has caused unease in Kigali. I know His Excellency the President of Uganda is on top of his game, and soon Uganda will solve this disagreement. Greetings from Agago, from Linus Ngompek. Yeah.
That confidence actually is what is affecting actually.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll go to discuss the Kosase fallout. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This last segment, I'll just take two messages from the discussion we've been having on Rwanda and Uganda relations, and I hope that we're not just blowing out a genuine works at the border post out of proportion in our discussions and in how this thing has turned out. Agaba Bills watching us says Rwandans and Ugandans have no problem at all. It's historical frictions between comrades in the NRA ranks. As the populations, let us ignore the leaders and soldier on.
I like that.
Edmond in Kampala says, in her contribution, Agatha seems to touch areas where Kakaire is fearing. We are seated upright. Let her speak. But also, we know the list of 40 from Rwanda. But does Uganda have a similar list? Edmond in Kampala. He's asking, Edmond, I do not know. I can't claim to know.
Tell Edmond must know that some of us are not interested in this fight. It's useless at some point.
The contrast of Rwanda and Ugandan infiltration is unrealistic because Rwandans are fully integrated in Ugandan society than Ugandans in Rwandan society. Someone is saying, one of our viewers is saying that. Let's turn to the Kosase conflict. It seems to be something that is winding and has twists and turns that never seem to end. When Parliament was investigating, no one imagined that when they produce a report, that report will cause controversy and actually lead them to being asked, someone to petition that they be investigated themselves. Kakaira, let me start with you. So,
Why me?
you're a journalist, you're a lawyer. Agatha is still training. Barbara is only a journalist. So maybe
Yeah,
maybe you might
yeah.
have some answers for us.
You can analyze it better. So,
Yes.
I'm listening
What's
to
the
you.
question? What's the question? What's the question?
Okay, I'll just take this message from one of our viewers. The Uganda-Rwanda conflict is like sibling rivalry, where each of the brothers doesn't want their brother's torch to shine because they fear that their parents will favor the one whose torch shines most. As such, they all keep trying to destabilize each other. Here, the parents are the foreign big powers. And I think there was another message just popped up which I needed to take. Yes, it's a long one. I can see you believing strongly, says me. You can see me believing strongly or deeply in the rhetoric these guys make in public about the East African Confederation. While the two countries are regarded as part of the coalition of the willing cow, like Barbara says, they cannot easily let go of so many things. Ask Gambia, which is totally surrounded by Senegal and cannot allow to become part of Senegal, or the two emerge into Senegambia. They've never succeeded. So forget about full and everlasting stability between the two. Indeed, ignoring is best way out. Thanks. Kakaire.
Yes.
COSASE, chaired by Abdu Katuntu, Member of Parliament for Bugweri, released its final report.
Yep.
The report has been received with a lot of criticism, and now there is an investigation, at least from a letter from the IGG to the International Security Organization, alleging that the leadership of COSASE was bribed to draft the recommendations they did and the report in the way that they did. Where does this take the investigation?
Charles, that's a complex question to deal with. I mean, the investigation. Let me start from the premise of the letter containing the allegations. I mean, the IGG has written a letter alleging whatever allegation she's making. I'll not play by that kind of that kind of confusion. The IGG, if you look at the IGG's mandate under the Constitution and the Inspectorate of Government Act, she has the mandate to investigate, more so when it comes to bribery. Bribery is an offense provided under the Anti-Corruption Act. It's within her mandate. She can investigate and prosecute. Now, when she writes a letter and she's writing, seeking for the attention of an institution which does not have that mandate to investigate an offense of that nature, you know that there is more than what meets the eye. Perhaps there is something we need to get from the IGG, because I know she's a seasoned lawyer. One of them, she's a bright judge. I know there is something she's communicating on behalf of who I can't tell. So it's quite tricky. But Charles, there is a continuous assertion that there has been criticism of our report. There were 53 recommendations made by the COSASE team. Isn't it so?
I think they were
Parliament adopted 51 and only 2 were amended. And the amendments are not so substantial to raise an alarm. At least on my part, that's my reading of it. So the question is, there is no logical connection between the so-called criticism of the report and the outcome, the events that have followed the report. Then 2, when you look at the letter of the IGG, she's mentioning how many people? There were 4 people, isn't it? But when you look at the report itself, it was authored, it was signed to, meaning that the authorship of the report is by the entire committee. And if the other members, perhaps if you're just telling me that they just follow what these others are stating, none of them wrote a minority report. Perhaps there is a logical disconnect between the so-called allegation and what we are seeing as the facts.
Okay. I have an opinion about
Then three,
yes.
as I conclude on this, I think we are playing in the hands of those who are not comfortable with the report. And we are denying Ugandans an opportunity to understand the contents of that report and how it impacts financial sector governance. But if we concentrated on the substance of that report, it would even deflate the so-called arguments about allegations. Because my reading of the entire report as a lawyer, at least I know that the outcome of that report, of those proceedings, are fair to all.
Okay. Let me take a message from Ivan Okoda. He's watching us from South Africa, Johannesburg. He says, thanks for the show, Charles. Thank you, Ivan. The IGG looks really bad on this one. There is everything wrong and fishy with the IGG's letter to ISO. Certainly the IGG should herself be under investigation, just like ISO, for neglect of duty, having slept on a constitutional duty to investigate corruption that transpired at Bank of Uganda. COSASE has done what both ISO and IGG ought to have done. Secondly, the IGG is increasingly being abused, both in procurement fights, in government, and now when politicians want to bring one another down. They use the IGG, whose investigations in such scenarios don't come to fruition. The IGG must not be reduced to a ping pong for political machinations. Agatha, I need to come to you. Does this report, it took a lot of time of Parliament to do, it cost money to do, to deal with a complex and quite intriguing issue, which is regulation of the financial sector. If it is swamped in these accusations, does this help deal with the problem? And I just need to add one more thing. We did partly discuss this issue last Sunday on the show with Kasim Kaira. And I spoke to Abdul Katuntu just before he came on air. And he said, I concentrated, look at the terms of reference for our investigation. We concentrated on post-closure. But the questions are deeper about the financial sector regulation and banks in this country. Who is going to answer those questions? Because COSASE was doing a post-mortem. And I think COSASE agrees they did a post-mortem. Though, when they went to the actual execution of their investigation, their probe, things kept coming out.
Yeah, emerging issues.
Emerging issues that this report does not fully address. So who is going to address those issues? Was anybody responsible? Should anybody have been? Because there are people still crying over it.
To be fair to the committee, they didn't receive all the evidence.
The question, Charles, should be, what issues do parliamentary reports address? Has there anyone who has ever been convicted because of a parliamentary report? No. When a parliamentary report is tabled, it is sent to the investigators.
CID,
IGG, DPP.
Police and DPP.
Yeah?
Yeah,
So
police.
if those people think that the investigation was not as thorough, I think that what they should be doing is to go and do a thorough investigation. Because the report clearly says there was a problem with the way all those closures were handled. So I don't know at what point now people say that the report is weak
It's lacking.
or something. They call it weak. It's
lacking.
It doesn't condemn enough.
They have not even read it.
So me, and I agree with Okuda that you fail to do a job you are supposed to do. There are thieves out there. There are people that mismanaged and abused their positions. We knew it before the report. The report confirms it. Although it doesn't pinpoint and say Bajenda, for example, or anyone else. Let the DPP go into people that held those offices where the report says this bank was closed without an inventory, for example. The sale was irregular. Let the DPP go in that place and see who was responsible for that.
The DPP or IGG?
The DPP. It's the
Okay,
DPP.
yes.
Yes. Even the IGG should have, when these came up a long time ago, and each bank that was closed, by the way, it made complaints. Some wrote to the IGG. I know for a fact that
Some
Uganda
went to
Cooperative
court.
Bank wrote. Why didn't the IGG look into impropriety then? So now, because what I'm telling you is, we have seen reports of Parliament, of committees of Parliament, just lie in Parliament, in the shelves. They don't hold that power to condemn anyone to go to court. They are supposed to be acted upon by these other institutions that are mandated constitutionally to do
And
that.
Agatha, all that
Actually,
is
to-
done in respect and actually out of respect for the principle of separation of powers. That you as Parliament, you expedite your mandate as spelled out in the law.
Okay, I have seen, and I know for a fact that, for example, I did host in the studio an old man who says he was done in by the closure of Cooperative Bank in 1999.
99, yeah.
He has not been able to pick himself up together fully, and yet he was one of those fairly successful coffee traders of the time. His properties were sold. He says they were sold wrongly. He took Bank of Uganda to court. In one case, agreed to a consent judgment because he was being squeezed. You know when they are demanding money from you and you have your property as collateral. He says his property has never been returned to him. He has run to every possible person he can find over the last 20 years. That gentleman is called Chris Tushabe. I hosted him here some time back. I know for a fact, and I have seen a report, that the office of the IGG has written over his matter, but no action was taken about it. He hasn't been given any.
Do you know what the report
remedy.
says about it? The report goes ahead to talk about that very matter and says that there must be a mechanism of dealing with complaints of that nature. Because you realize that actually, if the committee had gone into it, it was going to stretch its mandate.
Okay.
Which
Nteja Simu, just before you come in, Nteja Simu is watching us and says the IGG should be on a mission to derail and divert the public from the works of Katuntu. One can say she is being used. Why? Because why was her letter to ISO written on 19th and delivered on the day Katuntu laid his report? Two, why was her letter to Kadaga leaked to the public? Finally, why didn't she investigate Kosase herself instead of writing to ISO? Her letter to Kadaga doesn't seem to be in good faith. Nteja Simu. Barbara?
Exactly, actually. What you said is what I wanted to say. You see, this is like someone, the report is like someone announcing that the death has occurred. Okay? So we have a body. Now, we need to find out. We have suspects. We have a body. We have suspects. We now need to find out who killed this person. We now need to find out how did this body get here. Okay? Now, which is what Katuntu's report is all about. Katuntu's report is pointing out the flaws, is pointing out the irregularities, is pointing out the abuse, is pointing out all this. Now, instead of us looking at the details that's contained in this report and acting on it, which is the IGG and the DPP, like Agatha said, we want Parliament to act as the court, saying this is a case before you, make a judgment, make a ruling. That's what we want Parliament to do, which is not their mandate. But then also, the other thing is that I'm curious that this letter came on the day of that the report was then tabled, okay? Then this date was leaked to the public and the discussion started as Parliament was also discussing the report. Now, we need to know that this has happened
before. It was contained on TVO's page.
Yes, this actually it was linked to TVO. Actually linked it a more detailed later. Much way like
she
a
just
week.
edited it.
Yes, she just edited it, picked a few issues, and then ran with it. But then also we need to know that this has happened before. Remember with the Bassa Jabalaba case, where we lost 162 million shillings, which was being investigated.
62 billion.
Yes, 162 billion shillings.
Inflated
And then the Lord Mayor was in Parliament, Arias Lukwago, and on the floor of the House, he accused the committee members of having been bribed. That happened before. We had, remember the local government, Ekanya, was accused, the former MP for Toro, Godfrey Ekanya, was accused of having taken bribes. That has happened before. The former park chairman, Dandala Mafabi, was accused. So every time we have a crucial report that needs to be discussed, that can help us actually solve some of the challenges that we have in the financial sector, that's when we have accusation of bribery of committee members taking this. So why is it that these accusations always come at the time the report is being released? The other thing also we need to know is that there's politics within political parties that has been playing before this. Even before, at the beginning of the report, remember when FDC made changes. Okay, and at that time there were allegations already from within FDC, from members of FDC, saying that members of this committee are being bribed, they're taking millions of shillings.
But the FDC action was actually prompted by the fact that actually most of these people didn't support the new leadership which was coming in. Then two, their decision to act and take the final decision was because most of the members in FDC who had previously supported General Mugisha Muntu in the FDC presidential race had supported Asman Basaliwa in the Bujiri by-election. So could the report actually could this report just be a victim of the politics within FDC? Okay, because also as committee chairpersons, they do, you know, as a political party, FDC, okay, they actually get some money from this. They use the money to run their activities. So are they actually sour, you know, is it sour graping that they've lost the money?
I don't know. I wouldn't volunteer an opinion on that. I have read the report and I've asked the chairman and some members of the committee why they didn't name names.
I think that was a good thing.
Yes, why they didn't name names. I have been given an explanation on why they didn't name names. I think personally I feel the report could have done, initially I thought they could have done a little bit more, but when it says there was a fear to go beyond their mandate or their terms of reference, then you gain an understanding and say, the problem is you have report upon report on issues that affect real people that never take you to the core of what went wrong. Because COSASE investigated post-closure, how the Bank of Uganda handled
liquidation
the resolution of those banks. Yet the questions that many Ugandans would want answered are, why did these banks collapse in the first place? Who slept on the job? Who is responsible? Who should have been punished? And then one of the other things that we have...
And the committee in charge of that mandate is the Committee on National Economy.
Yes.
And
which previously had, because I mean, it had... some of these people who are raising the criticisms have previously been on that committee. I will not mention the names.
Yes, and
but two, Ugandans, also we have a very short memory. They investigated Cooperative Bank. There was even a hearing. Some of these banks were investigated partly, and I think we've lost memory of that. But they were investigated some of the things.
Okay.
However, there must be a comprehensive one. And if you read Justice Ogola's report, it was answering some of the questions these people are raising.
Okay. I'll just take 2 messages and we'll get out of here. Musa Ladu Ismail is watching us and says, the IGG letter in many ways looks like it is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Deflect the attention from the COSASE report. And as for the Uganda-Rwanda melodrama, the works are 3/4 done. So let's wait and see how the plot will roll out in a week or so. Another viewer here, Jose Nwabine, says, you know, some members of COSASE have publicly declared that they are serving their last term. And you know that our government sometimes is poor at payment of pension and gratuity. So they could have found a shortcut to getting their pension in their own way. We have no reason to doubt the allegations. Well, Jose, I have a different opinion about that, but I'll just throw it to the members here. How do you respond to Jose Nwabine?
I think he said what I would also say, but in a wrong way. You can't say you have no reason to doubt the allegations, because you have no reason. You are not giving us any proof that you know that the allegations are for a fact true. But what I'm saying is, we are not saying it's not possible that these MPs take bribes.
It's possible, yeah. It's possible,
what we are saying is, what we are saying is, and these reports are based on. That's why they are committee's observations. Yeah, you cannot really hang someone for observing the way they have observed.
Okay.
But you have another institution that should take that up and do more what they think should be done. That's what I
Sulaiman?
think.
Well, about that comment, I absolutely agree with Agatha about it. But again, I would implore him to read the report. Because if you are alleging that an individual was bribed, you ask by who, and then the person who is bribed, who is alleged to have picked a bribe, how have they acted? Have they acted in favor of the person who is alleged to have procured the bribery? When you read the report, there is a disconnect in respect of that.
Okay.
Then two, when you look at the IGG's letter, if you look at the allegations themselves, I mean, they accuse the chair that he picked 400 million shillings from Bank of Uganda to cut out. Now, when you, anyway, we wait, the facts are going to emerge.
Thank you.
But how was the money received? Because that money was credited on different accounts, and that will be known by Ugandans. Then the other thing is in respect of some bank where he had a loan. I mean, I've still managed to get information that such a loan was taken over by the FCU, and the financial statements are out there, which will also be known by the public as time falls.
Barbara, you have the last word and have 30 seconds.
You can't say that they took the money because we don't have proof to say that they actually took the money. Maybe what he needs to know is that I think Honorable Abdul Katuntu and the IGG actually sit on the same committee. I think it's the African or tripartite something, and actually payment was made actually a few weeks ago, and a payment which was equivalent to 400 million anyway, but it was for a different job altogether. It was not, and the IG is very much aware, and she's actually has the details of when that payment was made, and that's a different story.
Thank you.
Altogether.
Thank you. I'm afraid our time is out. We need to get out of here. I'll just take a couple of messages from Ivan Okuda, who says that Jose Nwabi Negai is hilarious. I hear shortcuts to pension. And he's laughing about it. Bernard Imperu says, Charles Kosase has clearly given you all the clues of the mischiefs of at Bank of Uganda. Kosase as a team could have genuinely written a final report that is wanting, but that should not stop the concerned authorities to expound the contents of the report and act on individuals within the legal framework. That's Bernard Imperu. Another viewer here says, crafty for long, Bank of Uganda officials hid under the constitutional protection that is not directed or controlled by any authority to mess up the financial sector. So DPP similarly is not supposed to be directed or controlled by anybody or institution, and it will hide under this provision. Take no action about the Kosase findings. Yet, the three, DPP, IGG, and CID have waited to be directed or prompted about Bank of Uganda mess. And maybe one last thing that deserves a simple investigation is, did Bank of Uganda give Katuntu 400 million to benchmark? That's Nteje Asimwe. And the last message, very last message, is from Mike Segawa. He says, when President Museveni brought Lieutenant Colonel Nakalema to help him fight corruption, we thought he was offside. But Justice Mulyagonja doesn't disappoint. The IGG looks shabby in the Kosase matter. She's clearly conflicted. She was asked by whistleblowers early in 2018 to investigate a number of Bank of Uganda officials over their wealth, which could have been a tip to dig deeper, but she chose to do nothing. She returned later to challenge Governor Mutebile, who had transferred some of those officials. Our time is out. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you very much, Sulaiman. Thank you very much, Agatha. Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight, and always thank you very much, especially to those of you who sent us messages and each one who stays up late to watch the show, and of course without forgetting the production crew that endeavor to deliver this show to you. The debate continues on the two topics on our social media sites, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on WhatsApp. From me, it's a good night.